we are. It is Friday, July 19th, 2024, and this is the weekly video. We do these each Friday, as many of you know. Those that you subscribe and are regular viewers know this, but if you're new, each week we go through the auctions that have taken place around the world on different sites of Chinese and Asian art, Japanese art. We also talk about rugs and carpets and things. We're going to cover some nice carpets today that went for a bargain price at a sale, and sometimes furniture and so forth, the antique American and European furniture and how that market is. But we focus heavily on Asian works of art and so forth. So that's where we are. All right. Before I get going, just a quick heads up to the folks over that use the Patreon page. If you haven't seen it, we did a video this past week about a Japanese Arita tiger that I bought many years ago, and how I came to buy it up in New Hampshire from the wife of a friend of mine, or she's a dealer up there, and some other little sort of stories about the antique business. A lot of you seem to like it. I got a number of emails from people saying they'd like to hear more stories, so I guess we'll be doing more of those in those videos that we put on Patreon for the subscribers there. So if you haven't subscribed, you might want to consider it. It helps support the channel. All right, now what's been going on? There are two lots I'm going to talk about that are two of them are coming up. Are a couple of Jades that are coming up, and I've had more inquiries about them than maybe any lot I've ever, two lots I've ever seen. And we're going to talk about that because I'm going to sort of explain what the deal is, and talk about a vase that I got a lot of inquiries about that didn't sell, and I'll explain why I didn't like it, but a number of people thought it looked very good because it did look very good. It's a really good copy, and again, it focuses on the idea, goes back to the idea of how good reproductions are getting today. They're getting better and better and better. It's a little terrifying, some of the pieces we've seen. But at any rate, there's this. This was in the Skinner Bonhams, or the Bonham Skinner sale that took place this yesterday in Marlborough, Massachusetts, right here, and was this big Hamada dish. And I talked about this last week because it's so big. It's 20 inch in diameter. Actually, it's a bowl. It's not really a dish, but 20 inches in diameter, done by Shoji Hamada. It's a wonderful example. There's a side view of it. Beautifully done, beautiful glaze, that persimmon glaze that he was so famous for, and the use of turquoise and whatnot. Beautiful piece. If you're a Hamada collector, and I think it went for an absolute steal. It went for $1,500 plus premium, or basically came just up to the low end of the estimate. It should have brought $4,000 or $5,000. So whoever got it, again, this goes back to the bit about during the summer months are great. It's like the month between Thanksgiving and Christmas. I'm going to keep saying it. The summer months are great times to buy things because so many people are away and not paying attention to the auction market. Europe, there are very few sales taking place in Europe. There'll be even fewer for the first part of August over there because so much of France and England, everybody's traveling and doing other things, and it opens the door some great buying. This is an example. I thought this was an outstanding buy. Somebody got a bargain. And then this sold okay. This did okay. It was a Goyo period a pottery vase with leaves and flowers on it, very simply drawn on there. Very nicely potted. It looked to be in good condition. I didn't see any damage to it of any kind. And it went for $1,100 plus the premium, so around $1,500, which is perfectly reasonable. I think the estimate was it was probably about right, but I thought it might go. I was hoping it might go a little higher because the Korean art market has sort of been in the same doldrums that the Japanese market has been in for the last few years. But if you're buying Korean art, you're collecting Korean art, get collecting because all these things are cyclical. All of these areas of popularity are cyclical. Right now, we're seeing an increase in interest in Indian art because the Indian economy is booming. So people in India are starting to take an interest in their own art. So be ready to see a lot of fakery going on from that part of the world too, just like China. The other thing I wanted to mention was this. This was in the Freeman sale. They had this collection that we were selling. It was the contents of a very good antique shop in Pennsylvania. And this beautiful Farrahan Saruk carpet. Circa 1900, about 120-year-old rug. It looked to be in really good condition. Beautiful pattern on it. Wonderful detail, lots of detail in it. Just an absolutely beautiful carpet, spectacular. And if you know anything about rugs, Farrahan Saruks, so they're considered to be. There are Saruks and they have the old sarooks that were so popular in the 20th century in America. Those big sort of maroon, sort of garish maroon things. This is what they should be, and very finely woven. And somebody got a good buy. It went for $3,250 plus premium, or around $4,500 with the premium. The estimate was modest, $2,000 to $4,000. It sold within the estimate. It measured though 10 by 14 feet. And the little thing about rugs like this was when we used to run auctions. So we were doing auctions about 20 years ago and going back some. A rug like this in the 1990s would have sold for $15,000 to $20,000 in an auction pretty comfortably, and maybe more. And just shows you what a whipping the rug market has taken over the last few years. This sold this time for $4,000. Absolutely a bargain basement price, and they will come back. They always do. But for right now, that's where the market is. And then the Persian Bijar from about 1890. This rug was in splendid condition. I thought it was from about 1910 or 20, but they said it was from the 1890s. And they do have a good rug person there, so they disagreed with me. But I didn't handle it in person, obviously. But it's a beautiful, beautiful thing. And the pile was in excellent condition. And Bijars are known as iron rugs, and the reason is because when they weave them, the warps that they weave them on, the alternate warps, every other warp, they depress underneath the previous one, so it creates an extraordinarily strong foundation to the rug. Plus the wool they had was particularly strong, so these rugs don't wear down. We have a Bijar in our house that actually is in one of the offices here, and there's a rolling chair on top of it, rolling back and forth all the time. It's been there for 10 years. The rug shows no sign of wear whatsoever. And normally, if you had that sitting on a Haris, you'd be starting to see some threads showing by now, but not on Bijars. This was a great rug, and somebody picked it up for $2,500 plus the buyer's premium. And this years ago would have been a 15 to 20 or maybe even a $25,000 or $30,000 rug at auction. It was 12 by 17 feet. It's a massive rug, and somebody picked it up for $3,200. Absolute steal. That was an absolute steal. Great buy. But this didn't sell at all, and this stunned me. I thought this would do very, very well. It was an unbelievably rare piece of China trade furniture made of Paduke wood, done around 1760 for the European market. Spectacular carving in beautiful condition. This is the antique shop that the man was in. They showed the gallery. There's the Bijar right there in the middle of the room. And there's the rest of the gallery. As you can see, he handled very, very nice things. The shop was there for a long time, as I recall them saying. He'd been there for 30 or 40 years. It was a well-established business. I guess he retired. At any rate, this table didn't have a bidder at $2,500. I cannot believe that. I don't know what happened. It may be that people just missed that it was China trade. I don't know. But if you're interested in it, contact Freeman's. You may get it. You may be able to buy this for $1,800 now, which would be a real steal. All right, so look into that. Now, over to the next lot was this. Again, to illustrate the softness of the furniture market and what a great value it represents, is this. 6 Windsor chairs made around 1820. And these are barrel-back Windsors. If you've never sat in barrel-back Windsors, you know how comfortable they are. So you have one for each end of the table, and then some chairs to go along the side. This was an absolutely beautiful set. Beautiful set. And if you were to buy these new, just to illustrate, if you went to Cabot House or one of the sort of a better store that sells sort of high-end chairs, because these are all bench made, of course, they would be $300 to $400 a piece. And somebody bought this whole lot for $400 plus premium, an absolute steal. And again, you have something very, very nice to put in your house, and you get a sense of how good the craftsmen were that made it, and something you can live with. Your kids would enjoy. You can't break them; they're almost indestructible, and so forth. But somebody got a great buy. And they also got a very good buy on this. It was a George II oak chest with a pedimented top, fluted columns down the side, block ends here, and then this wonderful base with a carved apron going across it, and then these sort of short but carved knee Queen Anne legs. The legs on these are carved on the face of the knees, and this was a very nice chest, 18th century chest all the way around, and ended up selling for just $4,000 plus premium. Again, very inexpensive in today's market. The furniture market is a relative bargain. Even a new example in that style, of that quality, that wasn't necessarily bench made, just made in some factory in Indonesia or something, would be around $3,000 or $4,000. This was an antique example of nice old grain wood, and would be beautiful in any house. And it was interesting because it had these, there's this nice pediment in the top. You could put a good little Chinese vase right there. That's what was supposed to go on top of it. They used to display objects there. Sometimes these had flame carved wood finials coming out of them, going up from here. But if I had it, I'd find the right vase or a piece of porcelain to put on top of it and stick it there. All right, you'd probably want to glue it down just in case. And then there was this. This was over at the Solano Gallery. They had a sale. They're out in California, in Palo Alto. And they had some nice things, but they also had a lot of copies. This was a very sort of dangerous sale. We posted the things that we liked on the global member pages and the Patreon pages. There were a few things in there. One of them was this jar. It looked perfectly fine. Ming 16th century, and very nicely decorated all the way around. Good outlining, good filling in of colors. The cobalt was nicely done. The bottom of it was very well trimmed out. Here's the base of it. Nice clean Ming bottom right there. No, not a lot of kiln grit, not a lot of mistakes. Nicely glazed in the middle. And somebody picked it up for $700 plus premium. That comes out to about $850, somewhere around there, or $900. Not a bad price at all. This was a nice little piece of Ming pottery, Ming porcelain. And then there was this. This was also in the sale. This was a great thing. I had a couple of people call me about this, or email me about this on the inquiry thing, because they thought the estimate was low. And we told them we had three inquiries on this. I told everybody this thing is going to bring at least $7,000 to $10,000, and it ended up bringing $8,000 plus premium, so it actually went over a little over $10,000 at around $10,500. But it was a very, very good example. It had a beautifully carved top and looked to be from the 18th century, judging by the color, shape, and the way the piece is finished. Very, very nice example. They didn't include many pictures of it, though. It was 5.5 inches tall, and a very nice example. But then they also had this in the sale. And this was the vase that everybody kept contacting me about, because they didn't say too much about it. They just said it was from a collection in Washington, D.C. It was 39 centimeters tall, or about 15 inches in height, and they didn't have any other information. They compared it, though, to pieces that were at Sotheby's and so forth, and I think one of them sold for $1 million Hong Kong, 1.16 million Hong Kong, or about $140,000. So people were wondering if this was one of those, and it wasn't. And I explained why. The enameling on it, though, I must say, was very, very good. The decoration on it was beautifully applied, except that the yellow body, had a little bit too much green in it to my liking, and the ornaments on the neck were a little bit underscaled. They didn't look to be big enough proportionally for the piece. And when you turn the vase over, it really gave itself away by the color of the mouth, that baby blue. Clair de Lune blue. They didn't usually use that as an interior color on the bottoms or on the tops. It was more of a green colored thing, and very shiny, very, very smooth. Didn't look at all old. And then the bottom of it really confirmed it. It's got a foot rim that was much more reminiscent of 19th century foot rims, but it had a chin lung mark on it. But this is not a 19th century vase. This is a new vase. This is a brand new vase. And apparently a lot of people noticed it and thought it was, because it only had 7 bidders watching it by the time the sale came up. So a lot of people had decided in their minds that this was a repro, and it didn't sell. It got bid on, though. And it may have been they had an opening bid, and then there's a couple of bids in there. Starting bid was $950. It got up to $980 or something, and then it stopped. And that might have been the auction house executing the reserve. So it may have just had one bid at $950. But regardless, it wasn't old. This is a new piece. Do not contact them to do a post-auction purchase and so forth. This is a reproduction. And they may not have known. There's the top of it. It looks really glaring there, that blue. It looks very, very wrong. All right. Now, the next thing I want to talk a little bit about is the Drouot. Those of you that have been collecting for a while and looking around the web, you've probably seen their website. This is a website. There's a hotel in Paris called the Drouot, and they run auctions there. And it's the first floor of the old hotel. It's just auction rooms. All the side rooms, these like little ballrooms in there, are all used for auctions. And it's a fascinating place to go into. I've been in there, and you go in. The day I was there was a really good sale taking place. On one side, they had very good European and Japanese works of art. They had some really nice Chinese things. They had a very early, I'll never forget it, they had a late Ming carpet, Chinese carpet. And the auctioneer was very nice because my wife introduced me to them. Over there, the auctioneers are called commissaires-priseurs, and it's a very statusy thing over there. And my wife introduced me as an auctioneer from America, and they were very excited. They were because I guess they haven't met many. I don't know. They could have been more accommodating, and I got to spend some extra time previewing and looking around and meeting the owners and things. But down the hall, the same day, there was a rare painting sale going on. Across the hall, there was an engraving sale and watercolor sale, and in a room next to that, there was a textile sale of vintage clothing going back to about the 1600s, 1700s, right through designer. So they had Hermes things in there and stuff from Charles I. It was a really interesting sale. So it's a fun place. But they now have a website, and auction houses can use it even if they don't sell at the Drouot. If you're an auction house, you can use it the way they do live auctioneers. So when you come over to the site, if you look at it, you'll notice they have locations of the sales: Paris, France, UK, and the United States. And right now, there isn't that much on there because it's, as I said before, it's summer in Europe, and you're not going to see a lot on here. Right now, there's like only about 5 pages of Japanese works of art. Normally, there are 10 or 15. The same goes for Chinese works of art. But there are still some things on there I want to talk about that are coming up in France in the next couple of weeks. Let's see, hop over here. This is some of the Chinese material and the Japanese material that's coming up at the sale. Let's see, this Wan Li period blue bottle with the horse on it. Of course, I'm talking about it because it has a horse, and anybody that's watching any time, I love Chinese horses and paintings. And this is a nice one. Looks to be in excellent condition. Good straight up late Ming bottle. What's the estimate on this thing? Very reasonable, $900 to $1,000 or €1,000 rather, and it's at Herbet auctions. Herbet, Herbett. Very, very pretty looking piece. Should bring more than that. It should bring $1,500 or so, but you don't know. Prices are easing off right now. You may be able to buy this, this month. Not probably in September or October, but this month you could probably buy this for close to the estimate. It should bring more, but you don't know whether it will or not. And then this is also at the same sale. Is this very nice 18th century bronze with enameling on it. And these are very rare. You don't see these very often. And I had put this on the Patreon page the other day, shared it over there because I thought people would find it interesting. A couple of people wondered if it was enameled later. I don't think it was. I think this is 18th century enameling, and you can see where a piece of the enameling popped off at one point, and they very carefully put it back on to preserve it, which I think is great. I love stuff like that. It's got some losses around the base here, probably from dropping and banging it here and there on tabletops and so forth. But this is a good example. And the estimate's nothing, $300 to $500. It measures, they're calling it 19th century Kangxi period. I'm not sure what that means. Maybe it's the mark on the bottom, but to me, this isn't a 19th century piece. This absolutely looks like an 18th century example, the way the enameling is done. So check it out. It's on the Drouot. You can just go in and run a search for it. You'll find it. Chinese brûle parfum. Just means incense burner. Let's see here. And with two something or other. I don't know what the two something or others are. Maybe a couple of or two handles, I think is what it probably says. Any rate, good looking thing. And then over to this, the watercolor. This is coming up in Italy at Asti Babbuino. And it's not a fancy thing, but you could buy it, and you may be able to get it shipped even to America at a reasonable price. It's got a starting price of just $10, and this is a 1860s watercolor. They say it's on pith of two pheasants. It's beautifully done. It looks like it's in wonderful condition, and it's got a very, very low starting price and low estimate. Nicely framed in this bamboo frame. The estimate is Oh, they didn't even put an estimate in. No estimate. There you go. It was just the starting price of 10 euros. If you could buy it, might be able to pick this up for $50 or $60, and it would be worth the $150 shipping charge. It's good. It's worth checking out. And then this sale just turned up. This will be on the global pages and on the Patreon pages. Is this set of Chinese export porcelain form candlesticks. This just appeared in the last overnight, I think it came in. Stair Gallery is having this sale. It has no watchers yet, so it must have just posted. The auction is on August 1st. This is in Hudson, New York, of course. Stair Gallery is an excellent auction house. They sell great things, and they get a lot of stuff that there was always the rumor that Stair Galleries was getting overflow from Sotheby's. There was some sort of relationship there, apparently, from a number of dealers I've heard it from over the years. And they do a good job. I'm not knocking them at all. They do a really, really good job. And Stair Galleries gets basically the same prices as Sotheby's or Christie's most of the time. But they have good quality things, and they're nice people to deal with. Everybody that's dealt with them likes them. Whenever you had a bad experience, I'm sorry, but... In general, people like them. And this is a very good looking set, estimated at $1,000 to $1,500. And these are nice old elephants. Now, there's two more elephants in the sale that we're going to look at that are reproductions, and I'm not recommending them. I didn't put them on the pages. They're 10 inches long, and they're not old. They're contemporary. They have chin lung marks on them and stuff. But anyway, these look fine as early 19th century examples. Certainly worth the estimate of $1,000 to $1,500. The pair of elephants in the middle is worth $1,500, in my opinion. So anyway, check those out. They measure 6 inches on the elephants in length and 4 inches on the foo dogs. They're all candle holders. So if you want some really great candle holders for a table, you can lay out all 4 of these on one table. They'd look amazing. And then you have this lot here. This is two pieces, actually. Hold on, we'll get back to the start here. There we go. It's a English Armorial Market China trade mug with a armorial cider jug missing its lid, but it's a really fine cider jug. This type of cider jug is the best of the best with those very, very precisely drawn spearheads, this beautiful blue on blue grid pattern, and you have the little sort of honeycomb patterns up above it, and those great big strap handles that they were famous for doing around between 1800, 1810, somewhere in there. And then this tankard with a big heraldic crest on the face of it. Again, honeycomb pattern up top. Still a lot of gilding left on it, so it's been pretty well loved. Get a condition report. Make sure the handles are all okay, as always, because handles get knocked off and fixed, and they're not always instantly or visibly, obviously repaired. This one may have been repaired at some point. You want to check it out. The estimate for the lot is $700 to $900, and I'll say this: the cider jug does not have its original lid, so that takes the value off and makes it worth around $200 or so, $250 maybe, $300, and the mug is worth $200 or $300 if the handle's not been repaired. So it's worth at least up to around the low estimate if the handle on the mug isn't repaired. If the handle on the mug is restored, without the lid on the cider jug, the lot is worth about $500, okay? It's worth a bit more than the opening price. If you get it for the opening price, it's a bargain. But just know that those things would affect the value in the estimate. I think if the handle on the mug is original, I think the estimate is just fine. The estimate is just fine. But if the handle is restored, take off a couple of $100. All right, and then this lot, this is an interesting lot. It's 14 helmet creamers from about 1810, 1820, Chinese export for mostly, a lot of these came into the United States for the American market, and somebody built a collection of them, and they're all slightly different, as you can see. I looked through them earlier. They all look to be in good shape. Maybe one or two have nicks to them here and there, but overall they appear to be in excellent condition. The estimate is just $200 to $400, which is very, very inexpensive. That puts each creamer at about $35 or $30 or so. It's very, very inexpensive for these. In the past, helmet creamers have sold for $100, $150, somewhere around there. And they're estimating the whole lot at $200 to $400. If you're a dealer and you want to make some money, maybe bookmark these and take a shot at them. If you can buy the lot for under $200, you can make some money with it on eBay or reselling them in a shop, obviously, because in a shop you're going to retail these creamers out for $150 to $200 a piece. All right, and then over here to this is the cup and saucers. These are nice. These are nice early 19th century handleless cups and saucers with shaped rims, gilding, and family crests on them. One of them has a little chip out of the rim of one of the saucers, but that's about it. They look to be in good shape. The enameling is in good condition. Some of them have different heraldic enamel. The heraldic decoration is slightly different on a couple of them, but overall they look pretty good. And the estimated price is $200 to $400 for all of them. So that's not a bad deal. Each cup and saucer is probably worth $80 to $100 pretty comfortably. So you're right there at the high estimate. But nice thing, if you're collecting China trade, now is the time to buy the stuff because the prices are extremely reasonable. And then you have this. Now this is a Fitzhugh pattern cider jug with its lid, not like the other one. It has a gilded food line on top, and it's got the landing pads here for the handles are all gilded, and you have this beautiful big Fitzhugh pattern. And you've seen these before. If you've been collecting, you've seen the Fitzhugh pattern. Most often you see this pattern on platters and plates, and you'll see this design here in the middle done in quarters going around the plate in 4 different places. They'll spread it out a little bit. But very, very fine work. They were known for the incredible detail they put into these. The workmanship on some of these can be really exceptional. The estimate on this is $600 to $800, which is probably about right. Cider jugs have come down in value by about 40%, 50% over the last 20 years, and have sort of, they leveled off about 10 years ago, and they never went up or down since. They sort of just stayed there. Again, it's the quality here for 18th century and early 19th century high quality porcelain is an absolute bargain. And it's only not getting attention. It's not because the quality is good, but the demand in the market is largely for Chinese domestic wares, and that's what is the price driver. So these pieces aren't particularly pursued in China yet, and eventually they will be. But for now, I think you can still buy them. All right. If the Chinese collectors start buying export wares, the prices are going to go up. It's going to be crazy. All right, and then over to this orange decorated or red decorated vase. Now this is an interesting vase. It was made probably 1830s or 1840s. It's very nicely done. The gilding on it's in beautiful, beautiful condition. I looked at this vase very carefully. I couldn't find any wear to it at all. And if you pull it in, of course, you want to check first the gilding highlights that are used on these vases, because gilding wears off first, as I always say. And if it's got all of its gilding, you can usually be pretty comfortable that the piece is going to be in overall good shape, unless it's accidentally damaged, obviously, and been glued back up. So that's why you ask for condition reports. But in general, this vase looks to be in outstanding condition. If you look at this Greek key border, if this ever got cleaned once with ammonia, it would strip off noticeably this gilding. So it tells you that this vase was taken well care of and just cleaned with light soap and water whenever it was washed. You never want to spray Windex with ammonia on a Chinese vase with gilding, or you'll end up with a black rag from all the gilding that comes off of it. Anyway, most of these vases in this shape that you come across out there are between 8 and 12 or 13 inches tall. That's the vast majority of them. This vase is double that. It's actually more than double that. It's 25 inches tall. This is a really big vase for this style. Highly unusual. The estimate is only $800 to $1,200. It's got a $400 opening bid. It should bring $1,500 all day long. It's a very nice example. I went over it very carefully. The bottom of it was never drilled. It was never lamped. There's the bottom of it. Very typical of these. I don't see anything wrong with it at all. Do check though. Make sure there hasn't been something done up here or some little corner of the around the mouth. Have them check it for restoration with a black light, but it looked good. And if it is that good shape, it's a $1,500 pot. It's estimated at $800 to $1,200, which is extremely reasonable, and is a $400 starting bid, which is of course very reasonable. All right, and then over to this. These are the elephants that are also in the stair sale. These are modern, and you could the color, the red color, and so forth is sort of a giveaway. But then when you flip the things over, they use the strap that holds the saddle on to put a chin lung mark on there. And this shouldn't have a chin lung mark. It's export wear. So these are obviously contemporary or from the 1980s. Motorhead made things like this. They made beautiful things. I don't think these are Motorhead. I think they were done by somebody else. But they're 10 inches long. They're very decorative. These are not on the global pages or on the Patreon pages because they're not antique. And he's not claiming they're antique. So good on him, but I didn't think anybody'd be interested in them, so I didn't add them. I added the other pieces. All right, but this is the one I'm advising people. If you're looking for an antique, stay away from it. If you're looking for a nice decoration, yeah, $300 or $400, why not? They're 10 inches in size, they look good on a mantle. All right, and then over to this. This is a nice pair of shrimp dishes with flange handles on the ends to hold them to serve as serving plates. This one has a bit of wear on the corner, obviously, and so forth. But the Mandarin decoration is very nice, and these would date to about 1840. Very nicely done overall. I don't see any breaks to them or anything. The estimate is $500 to $700. I think they're worth closer to the lower end of that estimate. I think $700 is a bit of a reach, but $400 or $500 I think is probably about right. Who knows? They may bring more. If you get somebody that wants something just decorative and they don't care what they spend, because people with a lot of money don't really care if it's $500 or $5,000. If they have barrels of money, they'll just say, "Pay the $5,000. I want it." That's I've seen it happen. It seems crazy to us, but that's the way some people are, and they want it. They want it now. And then hopping along over to this. These are the other lots I had a lot of interest in from people. This is the Revere auction coming up in Minnesota, in St. Paul. This is there's some jades in this collection that were gathered by a man who was active collecting back in the 1920s and 30s. And he's got a number of jades, but there are two jades here. I've had a pile of inquiries about this one and that one, the interwoven one. Very nicely done. And what I've been saying is you really, to decide whether these are 18th century, which is what they look like, or are they later 19th century examples, you need somebody to handle them for you, to go out and pick them up and really look at them. They look awfully good. The small areas, the nooks and crannies that, they didn't really finish all that well on early Republic copies and things. They often didn't finish things as well as they should. Sometimes they're left unfinished. From what I can see on these pieces are both finished beautifully from top to bottom. So my advice has been these are at least late Qing or Qing dynasty, and they could be 18th century, but you need to have them looked at. But even as later Qing examples, if you look at pull this one back here, and you pull it in, and you look at the details, all the fine lines that were done in, the proportions of the face, the way that it's carved down to create this detail in the neck to show the contrast of the height of the carving, the thickness of the carving, all the little details, the eyes shaped like fish, and so forth, and then these archaic emblems down here, and so forth. It's all very, very nicely done. And I think the estimate is pretty spot on. If people decide, the people that are going to the sale that look at it, you'll know if they think it's Qianlong, because it'll quickly move past that $3,000 to $6,000 estimate and get up to 10 or 15,000. So we'll see. But they're very nice jades. If you're looking for good jades, these are very nice. I've had I think we've had 11 or 12 inquiries for these jades in the last 5 days in this week. It seemed like every other inquiry we got seemed to be this. And the same goes for this one. Everybody that sent in both because they're so well done. And this is also a very, very lovely example. And again, the same story. Could be 18th, could be late 19th, but high quality because there was a lot of good quality jade made in the late 19th century and brought over to the West, and also lots of very fine jadeite. You may recall, you see these big jadeite Guan Yin statues and so forth. Many of those were carved during the Republic period. Many, many, many of them, and they're exceptional quality. It doesn't mean that they're just because they're made in the Republic period with jade carving doesn't mean they're not great. Some of those are quite exceptional. And this one also looks very, very good as far as color goes. The details, all the little details down in here, this area is polished. The areas that you don't normally look at are polished. On the later examples, on the bad copies that were made and the modern copies made today, they often don't bother with that. So that's one of the ways you can learn. Also the color of the stone, it's this very nice greenish white color. So if you're looking at those jades, that's my opinion of them. And then over to this, a pair of Chinese portraits. They're in the Ming style. They could be early Qing, but they're beautifully done, all framed and ready to go. And these are pretty good sized paintings. These aren't terribly small. I love the one of the woman. There's a woman and a man. And here's the man over here. He's got some staining in here on the paper, on the silk or on the paper. down through here, okay? A little discoloration. He's wearing Ming robes. This blue color and some other aspects of it. Now, blue is very unprone to fading. So if you see like Chinese rugs that have blue in them, you'll sometimes will come across a Chinese rug. You flip the rug over, and the back of it has all these different colors on it, reds and greens and yellows and all this. But on the front, the only thing you can see are blues and browns. And the reason is that the cobalt dyes don't fade. The blue never fades. So this may be older than it looks, even though the blue looks very fresh, but the red looks somewhat muted. The muted colors are more likely to give you an idea of age than looking at cobalt. But this is, I suspect this is a late Ming to early Qing painting of some ancestors, the way it's done. But it's good. They're both good size. They measure, the frame size is quite large. They are 33 by 26 inches, including the frames. So those are good sized pictures, but certainly worth shipping and keeping them together. If you buy one, you got to buy the other one and hang them together. They look great together. And they have very nice color and very appealing facial expressions. And the estimate is peanuts, $400 to $800. It should bring somewhere in that range all day long. Paintings like this are spotty though. Sometimes that may just bring 300, and they could bring 750 or 800 or even 1,000. There's not a big rhyme or reason to solve how much some of these paintings sell for, but these are both very nice paintings. All right, and now hopping along over to the over to the Bitamount newsletter page, go through some of the results from this past week. Those of you that use it are very familiar with it, I know. But every week we go through eBay and we have some searches that we've developed. It's a program that we have that we've used for years to get started, to pull out the auction lots that look good, because there's a million items literally right now for sale under the Asian antique category on eBay, and a very small percentage of them are authentic. It takes a little digging to get those out of there and put them in here each week. But that's what we do. It's fun to do. And we find some good things from time to time. And I'm going to go through some of them. One of them is this very, very fine agate moss snuff bottle with carved soapstone overlays. This is a beautiful little bottle, probably Jai Qing period, roughly. But the quality and notice the polish on this and the color. It's just a beautiful bottle. Absolutely beautiful bottle. And somebody picked this up for just $1,143. This was a steal. This was a great buy. Bottles like this typically sell for about double that. So if one of you bought it, bravo, you got a good buy on your hands. As I say, leave a bid. Always leave a bid. Always leave a bid if you see something you like. All right, and then this was something I talked about last week. It was a fixed price lot. It was a buy it now lot. But I thought it was just such a nice thing. It was $650, but it's a 19th century cinnabar carved lacquer jar with its original lid. And overall, it was in good condition. It had a few bumps on a few places on the corners, but nothing significant or detracting. And it was only $650. And I think if the guy had put it up for auction, it probably would have brought 1,000. But some people are very uncomfortable with auctions, so they don't do them. The anxiety gets to them. But this was a perfectly good thing. $650 for it. Not bad at all. It was a good buy. And then over to this. This again is very illustrative of what I was saying when you say in the summer months you get some very good buys. The plate. This is a small one. It's almost like a miniature, which is interesting. You see how big the man's hand is. For some reason, I don't think the seller bothered with the. There you go. 14 centimeters in diameter. So about 5 3/4 inches, 5.5 inches in diameter. Small dish, but it's like a mini-me of the big platters you've seen, of the big bowls you've seen that are 12 and 15 inches. This is a little one. It had a hairline in it, but other than that, it was fine. And went for just 22 pounds, or 28 US plus 20 shipping. So for under $50, you get a very nice 18th century, circa 1780s or so, blue and white platter with peonies blooming over a balustrade. I thought this was a very nice little example. And very reasonable, especially these things are great for, if you're collecting and you're on retirement or something, you can't shell out $1,000 for a big one of these. You get a small one for $22 and enjoy it. It's completely authentic, worth collecting. All right. And I've said it a few times, as you go along, the more you learn and the more you know about this stuff, the less money you need to buy things that are interesting. And then there was this. Now, this was an inquiry we had. The seller had it. He knew quite a bit. about what it was, but he wanted my thoughts on it. He was wondering if it was, 19th century or Republic, that kind of thing. It's a 19th century bottle with the phoenix on it coming down. Nicely done, iron red ground. He forgot to put the dimensions in for some reason. I don't know why. Always put the dimensions, type in the dimensions and condition. Always type it in. Don't leave it for anybody to guess. But I think this was, as I recall, this was 11 or 12 inches in height, somewhere, or maybe 14 inches. It was a pretty good sized bottle. Had he put the dimensions in, it might have brought more money, because people sometimes don't want to email and find out how tall something is. So they don't bother. But at any rate, it sold for $515 or 766 Australian, which is fine. That's the price it goes for. Because of its, as I recall, it was fairly good size, so it might have brought a little more had he included dimensions. But never put up an eBay listing without dimensions, ever, nor without a condition report. Because you can say something is in good condition and not be lying, even though it's heavily restored. It's in good condition now after the repair. All right, and then you have this. Now, this is a vase that's about the same size in Famille Rose. Had a repair to it in the upper corner. It's 11 3/4 inches tall. Had a break up there, which I think obviously pulled the value down a bit. Very nice piece, though. Square, slab constructed, $255. Okay, and then moseying along over to what's coming up this week. There's a number of things, and there's also some good books. We're going to talk about some books in a second. That if you're collecting and you're not buying books, you're really missing out. You cannot find on the internet everything you need to know without owning a book on the subject. And the internet is full of bad information. So if you're collecting, look around for books. And right now, books seem to be pretty favorable as far as price goes, because there are a lot of people collecting and not a lot of people are buying books. That's what it tells me. So that's how they're managing to sell all the fakes and copies. They're selling for serious money these days. You look at Lauren Galleries and Eden Auctioneer and those places where they sell copies, they're getting good money for stuff. And it's only because people aren't reading and learning anything. You have to buy books. And then on to this, if you have an area of specialty collection, just to give you an idea how many books you need, if you have a specialty area of collecting that you're getting into, you should have at least 100 books on that subject, at least. And they are out there, they're buyable, but you have to build up your library. We have the books between here and my office. I think we have there's probably 2,000 or 3,000 books and catalogs. It's I don't know. I've never bothered to count them, but it's extensive. You need them, and now they've been accumulated over 40 years. But I refer to books all the time, every single day when I'm doing replies to people. If it's something peculiar or unusual I haven't looked at in a while, because there's so many possibilities what I might see. So anyway. Now, on to this, the blue and white Ming jar. This is a nice one. I don't think it's as nice as the one that was sold that we discussed at the beginning that sold for 800 or so, 700 or 800. But this is still a very, very, well, it was 1,000 with premium. This is still a nice one. A soft blue. The figures are well done. The bottom of it is a little bit messier than the other one. There's a little bit of staining on it, but it's neatly trimmed. And it's about the same size. Nice looking little jar. It should bring $500 to $700. It's a good looking little pot. May bring more. If somebody wants this pattern, wants one in this shape, then they may pay more for it. Right now it's up to 117. It closes on Saturday. All right. And then hopping over to this. Now this is, I'm just mentioning this because I know a number of you like hat stands. And this one is repaired. This is a repair down the back. That's why it's only at $9 with one bid with 2 hours left to go. And the reason is the repair. But if you're looking for a shelf piece, this is the kind of thing you might want to buy. If you're not in the position, again, to shell out $400 or $500 or $600 for a perfect one, you can get this. Now, this area here where they repaired it, that white area, that looks like a plaster repair that nobody bothered ever to clean up after they did the repair. This is a late 19th century example with the silk balls on it. It's perfectly nice. It should bring $30 or $40. But it's one of these pieces, if you're looking for nice shelf and display pieces, this is something you can buy. It's perfectly fine. It's legitimate and it's old. All right, now hopping over to this, the bowl. This is a very pretty bowl. It measures about 10 inches in diameter. It's got very nice Amari coloring on it. I don't see anything wrong with it. And that's a shadow. When I first saw it, I thought it was a giant crack. It's just a a shadow of some kind from the light. You probably should have gotten rid of that. It may hurt the price. Somebody may glance and think it's damaged. But it looks perfectly fine all the way around. The gilding also is in good shape, all up around here and down here. I don't see any wear, so it's probably been well cared for over the years. And it's only up to $63. It closes on Sunday, and it should bring $600 or $800. To be realistic about it. It may not. But Migolari, over the last few months, has had the seller overseas. He's had a number of similar types and sizes, and that seems to be what they're bringing over there. And this is a nice one. This is a seller in the UK. Very attractive, though. And then hopping along over to this, the Yixing book. I have this book, and I highly recommend it. It's an auction lot. Its starting price is $200 to bid on it. I suspect it'll probably sell for the starting price or maybe one bid increment above that. But this is a very, very good book. Really good book. It came from K.S. Lowe's collection. He's a scholar. He's a big collector. As a matter of fact, there's an exhibition catalog being sold by this same seller of his collection. I'm going to talk about that in a minute. But I bought this book when it came out, probably 20 or 30 years. I don't remember when it came out. It came out a long time ago. And I've used it a lot. It's very readable. It's got good information about the Yixing traditions. And it covers, it starts with examples in the Ming Dynasty right through to today. It's got everything, all of them in there. It's a fairly thick book. It's a fairly good sized book. There's a picture of it. As you can see, it's a full-blown reference. Nicely done. So check, it is worth the $200. Build your library. And then there's this one. This is his own collection. And this was a show of his stuff that was done at the Flagstaff House Museum of Tea Wares. There it is, purple clay wares. And there's some nice examples in here. You'll recognize some of them, like that pewter example in the middle that would have a Yixing liner in it. And then you have the melon form down below it. And then the early Qing square type here. They started first making them in the transitional and Kangxi period. There's a famous one in this form with a green glaze on it that's in the Butler collection. And then there's this compressed version here. $49. It's worth owning. That's a good, I'm telling you, you'll learn a lot. It's a very interesting book. Because, okay, I'm assuming he wrote, he did this book, and I'm assuming a lot of it's the same similar content that's in his other book that's worth buying. And then this, Woven from the Soul, Spun from the Heart. This came out a long time ago. I don't know, 20, 30 years ago. I bought it when it came out. I forget even, I think the Metropolitan Museum published it. I'm not sure. Does it say? No, Carol Beer wrote it, but it doesn't say who published it. I think it was a Met book. I'm not sure. It is a terrific book if you're interested in Middle Eastern textiles and silks, gilt thread silks, Islamic silks, that sort of thing. It's elegantly done. It has got beautiful illustrations, some rare examples, and there aren't a lot of copies of this book floating around. It didn't sell a lot of copies because the subject matter is pretty narrow in scope. But if you learn what's in this book, you're going to be out there in the field going to auctions and doing things. If you learn what's in this book, you may come across something very, very good at a bargain basement price, because Middle Eastern silks and textiles often get confused in auctions and by auction houses as being Italian or Southern French or French church wares, and many of them are not. Many of them are Middle Eastern, Turkish, Persian, and so forth, and those are much more valuable. So it's a little something to know. All right, and then over to this silk again. This is a very nice pair of robe sleeves, Qing Dynasty, gold metallic thread, and they have these very fine knotting patterns in them. They used to call them the blind stitch. And I'm going to talk a little bit about blind stitching, because there was back in the 1920s and 30s, somewhere around there, some dealers were told by Chinese sellers that the stitch is called the forbidden stitch, and that they were not supposed to use it because the weavers would sacrifice their eyes trying to weave them because the knots were so small. And the interesting thing is the knots are absolutely incredibly small, but it's not hard to make a small knot with silk, because silk is incredibly thin. But they got this urban myth started, I guess, antique urban myth started that this knot is forbidden, and they would get sellers in the West to buy it because they thought they were buying something forbidden, and it wasn't forbidden at all. That was a fib, and but you know it's how you sell things into the market. And a lot of stuff got sold out of China back in the day that was also misrepresented too. Bronzes, jades, lots of porcelains, you know, a lot of Republic wares with Kangxi marks got sold as period, that sort of thing. The museums over the years have gotten rid of them all, but there was a time when there was a lot of fakery coming into America long before the current flood. Anyway, these are estimated, I don't know what they're estimated. Right now they're at $273. I don't know what the seller is expecting to get. I expect these to bring $600 to $800 for the pair. They're very nicely done and they're in excellent condition. If you look at them carefully, you'll see very little in the way of wear, tears, pulls. There's no silk rot, anything like that, because silk does rot. So check those out. This closes on Sunday. All right, and then going along over to this. This is a very familiar plate to many of you. It's an 18th century, they're generally Kangxi period plate, and they sell for good, fairly strong prices, normally $1,000, $1,500, maybe more. Sometimes, I think there was one just recently that brought a couple of thousand. All right, this one has a staple repair on the back and a hairline in it. So if you're an impecunious buyer or you're on a pension, this is something you might want to look at. You'd probably be able to buy it. And there's nothing wrong with it. It's a very nice piece of porcelain, beautifully done by a good painter, you know, around 1700. Here's the back of it. Here's the other side of it. And here's, let's see here. Here's the line going through the middle. It's a crack. It's been glued right through there. And then on the shoulder is the staple repair, okay? It's not perfect, far from it. But from the front, it looks awfully good. From the front, it looks fine. It'd be a perfectly good display piece. And instead of spending $1,500 or so on it, I suspect this is going to sell for probably under $100, maybe $125 or something. I'll be surprised if it goes for more. Well, we'll come back and revisit next week. But it's a great thing to buy if you're looking to buy really nice things. Buy the art, not the condition. You're looking for something with very good artwork in it, very, very desirable. This is a nice looking porcelain. And then over to this is closing. This is a late 19th, early 20th century piece. It's a nice form. It's an old bronze form, Hu form that's been used, but it's got ram's head bottles. It's celadon ground with famille rose enamels and lots of gilding. He didn't put up a picture of the foot rim on here. That's as close as he got, but it looks like a late 19th, early 20th century piece to me. And right now it's up to $3.25. He's probably wondering why it's only at that point. Well, he didn't include a picture of the bottom, so it scared a lot of people off, I suspect. He should have done that. That was again laziness. You know, everybody goes to all this trouble to get things. He did put the height in though, a nice big print, 8.2 inches tall. You go to all this trouble to get things and put them on eBay, or list them anywhere for sale, put the size in. People want to know how big something is, because this particular form vase can be found over 20 inches tall. You look just like it, it's just bigger. So it's a bit frustrating for people. And a lot of people don't like to get in touch with dealers and say, how big is it? And they're a little intimidated, so they don't do it and they just skip it. So that may be what's happening here, and it may end up going very, very inexpensively. And then this is Josh Chamberlain, Juice. Chamberlain Antiques. He used to sell under the name Juice 1499 forever. He finally, I guess, managed to get eBay to change it for him because he has a lot of feedback. He's got 93,000 feedbacks on here. $26 is the current price for this. It should get up there. It's a piece of sungware. It's a Sung Ching Bai crackled dish. Looks absolutely fine. It's got a shaped rim. I don't see anything wrong with it. And this should bring at least $200 or $300. It measures... probably not enormous. It's probably 5 or 6 inches in diameter. Let's see, where's his 4.5 inches across. There you go. It's just because that's the size a lot of them are. That's how I knew it. All right. So that sort of wraps it up for the week. Thanks for watching. I hope you found something you liked. You might find something to chase over the weekend or the next few days. If you haven't subscribed yet, I wish you would. Love to hear from you. Leave a comment. Join us over on Patreon if you haven't. You want to get more content every week, and you could get access to the global pages right now, which there isn't a lot on there right now. I'm going to update it again tomorrow. I've been checking it every day to see what's come online, and it's been very quiet. It's been very, very quiet, and it's going to be for a few more weeks. I hate it because it makes doing videos a little bit of a stretch, finding stuff to talk about, because not a lot of things are going through the auction houses right now. Christie's and Sotheby's and Bonhams are pretty much done until September. as far as Chinese and Asian art goes. But I know they have a lot of stuff coming up in the fall, so we'll see what pops up first. All right. Thanks so much for watching, and have a great weekend. Enjoying your summer, I hope. We are here. The new dog, by the way, is fine. Buck rather. I don't know where he went. Bo is another pet we have that I'll just talk about another day. But Buck is around here somewhere. Anyway, he just came back from the beach a while ago. He went down for a dip with Mom. And so we're fine. And we had a great week. And we're going out to dinner tomorrow night. It's my wife's birthday. So that's what we've got planned. Have a great weekend and see you all next week. All right. Bye-bye.